All right, so we're going to be looking at notes today for ellipses. Okay, a lot of what we look at for ellipses has to do with the same things we did for the circles before. The ellipses have a center, same as the circles have a center. The ellipses, though, instead of having one radius that's consistent all the way around, it has what you could call a radius going in the x direction and a different radius going in the y direction. So if I drew a picture, I could have, this would be an ellipse, and this would be an ellipse. This is called a horizontal ellipse because it opens in the horizontal direction. The bigger side is in the horizontal direction. Okay? This would be a vertical ellipse because it stretches out in the vertical direction. Okay? Alrighty. Hold on. Okay. So when I talked about that it has two radiuses, it has one radius this direction. This radius is called A because it's the bigger radius. Has a radius in this direction. This radius is called B. It's the smaller radius. And of course this point is the center. Here, this is the center. This radius is called A because it's the bigger radius, and this radius is called B because it's the smaller radius. The equation for a horizontal ellipse is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, but it equals 1 always. Always equals 1. The two radiuses are on the bottom of a fraction. Just like in a circle, it's the radius squared. So in this equation, the x direction is bigger. So under the x, I've got a squared. The b is smaller. So under the y, I've got b squared. That's the equation of my ellipse when it's horizontal. Vertical, very similar. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals 1. It always equals 1. The radiuses are represented underneath. But since the bigger radius is in the y direction, I'm going to put a squared under the y and b squared under the x. Okay? Just like we saw before when we did circles, the center is hk. And let's go ahead and write that as center. Center is hk. And since they're both inside parentheses, they are both the opposite sign. All right, so let's look at graphing when we're given an equation, okay? So first we're going to look at the top. This top is going to give us our vertex, our center, sorry. We do it just like we did the circle. So for here, the center is 0, 0. Okay? For this one down here, the center is positive 5, 0. So that's no different than how we did when we were looking at the center for the circle. The next thing I'm going to fill in is the A and the B. Remember, A squared is the bigger value. So a squared is going to be 25. So a equals 5. Always make a note, where is the a squared? In this case, it's under the x. So you're going to put an x here. It's going to be really important. Don't forget that. Okay, so the b squared is under the y. B squared is 9, so b is 3. All right. We're going to go ahead and show how to graph it. And again, this x and this y is critical. You got to remember to put it there. All right, so center, 0, 0. The x tells me that I'm going to have a radius of 5 in the x direction. So this is my x-axis. So 5 to the right and 5 to the left. But in the y direction, I have a radius of 3. 3 up, 3 down. Again, I put the x here because the 5 came from the a squared, which was under the x. I put the y here because the 3 came from the b squared, which was under the y. Then just connect your ellipse, just like you did for your circle. All right. So your major axis is the length from here to here. Major axis. Okay? If I were to count it, that would be 10. Your minor axis from here to here. This is your minor axis. Okay? How far is it from here to here? In this case, it is 6. Hopefully you notice that 2 times A gives you the major axis. 2 times B gives you the minor axis. But again, you could just count. Okay? Filling in the direction. Oops, sorry. If you look at this ellipse, it stretches farther in the x direction. That is horizontal. So I put an H. Okay? So horizontal tells me it opens bigger in the x direction. That's why the A value is x, because the bigger value is in the x direction. All right, let's look at number 2. We pulled our center out of the top of the equation, opposite sign, positive 5, 0. A is always our biggest value. So 16 is our A squared. And the A squared is under the Y. If A squared is 16, A is 4. B squared is the other value. It's under the X. B squared is 4. That means B is 2. All right, let's graph it from there. The center is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Then I look at my notes. In the Y direction, I have a radius of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the X direction, I have a radius of 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Connect the dots. This stretches more in the Y direction. That makes it vertical, up and down. The length of the major axis, again, I could count. How far is it along the major axis? That would be 4 here and 4 more. That is 8. Minor axis would be from here to here, all the way across. 2 is 4. Okay, I'm going to make a little note up at the top. You can kind of think of the major and minor axis as the diameter. They're just like the diameter. You know the diameter is twice the radius. The major and minor axis are both the major radius, twice the major radius and twice the minor radius. Okay. It's really pretty straightforward. Really the important thing is to notice under the X I travel 2. Under the Y I travel 4. Under the X, I travel 5. Under the Y, I travel 3. Okay. So let's take a look. Next page. All right. Center comes out as the opposite sign. So positive 1, positive 2. Under the X, I have 36. Square root of 36 is 6. So in the X direction, I'm going to travel 6. The X direction, I'm going to travel 6. Because this is the bigger number, that's why I put it with the A. Okay? That's not the huge deal. The huge deal is to remember the X goes with the 6. In the Y direction, the square root of 9 is 3. So in the Y direction, I go 3. Let's go ahead and graph that. 1, 2. X direction 6, coming from over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Y direction, I travel 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. ellipse. Okay, and again, the major axis, that's like the bigger diameter. That would be like this. So 6 plus 6 is 12. Minor axis, that'd be like the minor diameter. 3 plus 3 is 6. This stretches further in the horizontal direction. That makes it a horizontal ellipse. It's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. All right, number 4. Center, opposite comes out of the parentheses. So -3, -2. This is the bigger one, so it's going to be A. So I'm going to start here. The x direction, square root of 9 is 3. That leaves in the y direction, the square root of 4 is 2. I'm going to go ahead and graph. Center, -3, -2. In the x direction, the radius is 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. In the y direction, the radius is 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. That's my ellipse. It's a little hard to tell, but I can look here because the 3, the bigger radius, is under the x. That means it opens in the x direction, horizontal. Major axis, that'd be like the biggest diameter. 3 plus 3 is 6. Minor axis, like the smaller diameter. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay. One more. Center, opposite sign. 4, -1. 4, -1. This one is bigger, so I'm going to start with it. In the y direction, the square root of 16 is 4. The other piece, in the x direction, the square root of 9 is 3. So to graph it, we've got 2, 3, 4, -1. In the y direction, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4 down. X direction, 3. 1, 2, 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3 to the left. Connect the dots. Okay? The major axis, that's like the biggest diameter, that would be 4 plus 4 is 8. Minor axis, the smaller diameter, 3 plus 3 is 6. This opens bigger in the y direction. That makes it a vertical ellipse. So if we're given the equation, we can find the center exactly the way we found it for a circle. And underneath, these are the 2 different radiuses squared. So this radius squared is 9. That makes the radius 3. This radius squared is 16. That makes the radius 4. How do I know which direction that radius goes? I look at the 3. The radius of 3 is under the x. It goes in the x direction. The radius of 4 is under the y. It goes in the y direction. All right, now we can take that and reverse it. We can take a graph and write the equation. So first we're going to fill in the direction in the center. The direction is horizontal because it stretches wide. The center is 2, 3. Okay? So the top of the equation is just like the circle. I'm going to have parentheses squared plus parentheses squared. These go inside as the opposite sign. So x minus 2, y minus 3. But for an ellipse, it always equals 1. Under here, I put the radius in the x direction squared. Under here, I put the radius in the y direction squared. So first, I'm going to go ahead and list those. So A and B. A is the biggest, so we're going to go here. A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A is 5, and it's in the x direction. That makes A squared, 25, in the x direction. Let's not put that. Let's leave it up here because we're going to count 5. Yeah, let's put it in the x direction. Right? The smaller one, B, I'm going to count 2 in the y direction. So that's going to be a 4, 2 squared, in the y. So under the x goes a 25, under the y goes a 4. So my center here is positive 2, positive 3. The radius in the x direction is the square root of 25, which is 5. The radius in the y direction, square root of 4, which is 2. Okay, do one more. Last one. Center is 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4, negative 2. Direction is vertical. We're going to do A and B. A is the biggest radius. So we've got 1, 2, 3. And that's in the y direction. B is the smaller radius. We've got 1. And that's in the x direction. So my a squared is going to go under the y. My b squared is going to go under the x. And if a is 3, a squared is 9. If b is 1, b squared is 1. So I've got my 2 parentheses squared. On top, just like the circle, I'm going to plug in the center. I'm stuck on that vertex center. X plus 4, opposite sign. Y plus 2, opposite sign. Under the y goes a 9. Under the x goes a 1. Under the x goes a 1. And the equation for an ellipse always equals 1. All right, so your teacher has your homework. She's going to go ahead and pass out. The answer key is right up here on the corner of the Elmo cart. You're welcome to come up and check your work. Have a good day. Your homework's due tomorrow, and I'll see you tomorrow.